Hi, David.
Good morning.
Let's start at your beginning in this life as to where you grew up, what your family was like.
So, I was born in Chicago, and my dad is a Presbyterian pastor, and he would have his junior high, senior high youth group over, and they would be singing these songs from the '70s Christian era, from Godspell, Pass It On, all these beautiful, uplifting, harmonious songs, and I was just in heaven because I knew that was the vibe that I wanted to be in. And and in fact, they had a production of Godspell in in the church there in Chicago. And afterwards, the man who was playing Jesus knelt down and he gave me this balloon. And something happened in that moment that just like when I think about it deeply enough, it brings me to tears because it's just so profound. Because I was open as a child to consciousness, to the presence of the divine, and especially through music, especially through the vibrations. So I started playing the cello when I was 6 years old, and like many of you, I tried singing, and then there was a like, David, you can sing a little bit quieter now, please. So I had one of those moments of like, oh, okay. So I didn't really go into singing until much later in my life, but cello has been with me since I was six.
Huh?
And then we moved to Pittsburgh. The power of the divine spoke to me on instances like Christmas Eve, singing Silent Night, and just feeling something in the music come alive, feeling something in my heart and just in the energy. I didn't know how to talk about it or how to explain it. I just loved it. And uh, and I would go as a teenager to music festivals like the one at Tanglewood up in Massachusetts and just lie under the stars. And I just remember what a transformative summer that was just because my heart opened so much to the power of music. And I had a teacher who said, yeah, I think you could make it in music. And that really gave me that, that much needed bolster to follow my dream. So uh, fast forward a couple more years, I graduate from high school and I'm thinking, engineering, music, and chose to follow my heart and went into music.
Great.
It's been a challenging decision. As you know, musicians do not have that much of a stable lifestyle, but I know that this is my heart's path, is to dive into music. So I went through my education and would hit these roadblocks of like, what am I doing? Because I would get a glimpse of what a typical musician does. You know, as I would go out to these smaller city orchestras and play in them, and they were just depressing because all the people around were just kind of cynical, and the conductor was uninspired, and I was playing music that I didn't get to choose. So it's like, no, this isn't what I was. I'm looking for joy, basically, and so I kept on going and doing different things, finding my way. I was in a musical storytelling troupe, thinking that this is it. This is what will give me that deep, rich fulfillment. But it wasn't until I found Ananda and Ananda music that I found, oh my gosh, this is my home. The first time I was chanting with others, just the tears were just streaming down my face because it was just like I had found my home. I had found what I was looking for music to do, which was to bring me closer to God, to give me that distinct inner experience of something greater than myself. And so uh, I found Ananda Portland and I thought, oh, how nice, this choir needs some help. I should join them and give them my expert background. And so I would be singing and be looking around me, and somebody would be singing out of tune, but they had this blissful expression on their face. And at the end of the concert, I'm kind of like, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, huh. Well, they are obviously enjoying themselves a lot more than me. So what do I need to do here? And it was around that time also that I was coming home from an opera rehearsal, and we were suffering under an uninspired conductor, and I was drenched in misery as I was driving back home and through the rain, and I suddenly realized, oh my gosh, I have to sing this solo from the oratorio. This is my son, in whom I am well pleased. And I finished this song, and a 40-second song, and I had to pull over to the side of the road because my consciousness had changed from being drenched in misery to just like, wow, this beautiful, expansive energy in my spiritual eye. And I had just started meditating, so I didn't know exactly what was going on. And so I knew that something had happened because this music, this piece that Swami wrote, is very simple seeming. There's no sophisticated, harmonies or odd notes that get in there. It's just the notes of a scale, and yet it carried so much power to change my consciousness that I wasn't even looking for. I wasn't expecting it in the least. So that was my wake up call to the power of music. So I I started diving into Swami's music, both on cello and both on voice, just to explore and what can happen, and just went deeper and deeper and deeper into this. And I would be reading these other books like Music, the Brain, and Ecstasy, which is about this science's discovery of what is happening in the brain and when we listen to music. And from a science point of view, it's really fascinating how there's not one center of the brain that gets activated from music. It lights up in many different areas, different parts of the brain that have to do with rhythm, with pitch, with memories associated with that song, with prediction, with so all these different aspects of the mind. And so they try to answer the question, why does music bring us to bliss? And the best they can do is this. The music sets up expectations, and then the composer will either fulfill them or delay them, and that's what brings us to ecstasy. It's like, no, that's baloney. That's not what brings us. It's consciousness. It's how the composer can take inspiration, can take an inspired melody, and weave just the right notes, weave just the right harmonies and rhythms around it so that it holds that inspiration. And so this is what Swami did. He was able to hold on to that inspiration with such tenacity. I love that word tenacity because it's what it takes to hold on to this kind of inspiration. That willpower to say, no, don't go away, I'm not done yet. And to just keep asking, is this the right note? Is this the right rhythm? Is this the right harmony? Until he got that, yes, that is correct.
How is Swami Kriyananda's music right for every note?
That is a really good question because there are, like Yogananda created the cosmic chants. The chants in themselves, they're very simple. However, the consciousness that he says he chanted them until he got a divine response, and so those songs are now impregnated. Even if it was Mary Had a Little Lamb, if Yogananda would have taken those notes and sang them with devotion and devotional words until he got a divine response to God, Mary Had a Little Lamb would be what we would be chanting before meditation, because it's just that much of a power.
Uh-huh.
So there's that avenue of getting to the divine, and then there's the other avenue of tapping in to what is happening there. Brahms, in Talks with Great Composers, says it so beautifully. He says, now this is a really cool thing. If you haven't read the book, highly recommend it. You can find it online. Talks with Great Composers, Alfred Abel, Abell, and it's this fantastic interview with Brahms in the late 1890s. Brahms is going to die in a few years, and he doesn't know it yet, but he knows that he's approaching the end of his life. And he has never spoken about his creative process before. And he tells the interviewer, this young man, I'll tell you my secrets, but you may not publish it until 50 years after I have passed, because the world is not ready to understand what I'm about to tell you. And so he goes on to say, I meditate on the scriptures. I and my Father are one. And I take that deeper and deeper and deeper until I reach a state between dreaming and wakefulness. In this state, I feel vibrations thrill my body. Does this sound familiar, perhaps? And there, in that state, is where I receive all of my creative ideas. So then the interviewer asks him, "Oh, you mean like the subconscious?" when he's referring to between dreaming and wakefulness. And Brahms says, "No, no, 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 no. 1890s. This is more like the superconscious." The superconscious. 1890s, not published until the 1950s. Yogananda comes in the 1920s, introduces superconsciousness. So they're obviously on the same
Hmm.
wavelength. Ah, get it? Wavelength. Yeah. Handel was the same way when he composed the Hallelujah Chorus. And that's why, it's so beloved even to this day. It's not because it got 10,000 likes on Facebook. He didn't have a brilliant marketing team. It's because when he was composing that, he had this divine experience of samadhi. He said, "I saw the gates of heaven open before me and the great God himself revealed." And he's not talking about the God, with the finger this way with a long flowing beard. He's talking about something cosmic that took him way beyond the confines of his imagination. And that gets infused into it. So it's like composers will take that experience and then they'll clothe it with the notes here. And so if we take this roadmap, this is a roadmap. So if we tune in with as much consciousness as we can and play these notes with as much sensitivity and receptivity, we can approach the level of consciousness and the level of inspiration that these composers had. Yeah, Beethoven was another incredible genius. Ode to Joy, 5 notes. 5 notes, yet incredibly powerful. Somebody mentioned this, reminded me of this saying of Swami's. Music not only changes consciousness, it also creates consciousness. And I need to go back and find the context for that because I'm fascinated to think about this. But if you think about it in this way, this creation is upheld by vibration. By vibration. And what is music but vibration? Every time we sing, every time we create sound, we have this opportunity to create energy. So perhaps we are practicing becoming creators ourselves. So as we sing, we're given that opportunity. And Yogananda says that highly advanced souls can create galaxies, can create universes. So just think of that necessary concentration, attunement, love, and vibration that goes into that level of creation. And here we just these puny little humans, but yet we have this ability to create vibration. And when we combine intention with vibration, that's where the magic happens. Because the obviously if I sing, "This is my son, in whom I am well pleased," I'm singing the right notes, but my consciousness, my attention is everywhere. Now if I tune in, "This is my son, in whom I am well pleased," and I choose to share with that intention, with that vibration, with that attunement, it's a completely different experience for me and for the listener because we have this ability to tune into vibration. And the interesting thing is this: our perception of music is not what we think it is. We think that music exists out in the in the universe somehow, but the universe, but it's like the waves, the radio waves. We can't see them out there. We can only hear them when they interact with our ears. So it's our brains that are creating the sounds that we are hearing on this level. But it's our hearts that can feel the energy of what happens. So even though we might think that as we're singing, as we're creating music, that it might not be creating anything lasting, it's just these air pressure waves that hit our eardrums. Yet the energy of the heart has its own electromagnetic field, and the intention with which we offer that, the consciousness with which we perform, um, can so tangibly be felt.
When you were at Ananda Village and presumably worked with Swami, knew Swami, share whatever you can with us about your experiences, your memories, your advice that he gave, etc.
Yeah. He was always asking for more expression. There was never any mention of, well, there was one time. I'll get back to that in a minute. But always more feeling, more freedom. For instance, when I accompanied him singing Thy Will from the oratorio, here I am, a classical musician, used to one, two, three, four, but he was just singing. It was free rhythm, so it was quite a thrill to stay up with him and to follow his passage work there. Um, and the one time the one criticism that I ever heard him give a group of us that sang was like, they could have practiced that a little more, which is good for people to know, because there is the tendency for, oh, just sing with consciousness and it'll just be fine. No, music takes dedication, it takes discrimination, it takes patience, and it takes willpower to get it to the best of our ability. When we're performing, when we want to reach others, we want to hone our craft with that energy, with that dedication, with that discrimination, so that we can bring what we do down to that focus to make sure that all the notes are correct, all the harmonies are correct, everything is as shiny and fits together as best as possible. The technical aspect of things is not something taboo. Swami labored intensely technically over his writing and over his musical compositions. Asking, is this note the correct note? And so that's the one thing that I would just urge all of us to do. Don't be afraid of spending more energy on technique. Swami urged us, take voice lessons, improve your craft. Don't be afraid. And even Master Yogananda writes, find the best teacher that you can and learn from that teacher. I lived at the village for 12 years, and then Divine Mother said, it's time to share what you've got. And so I came back up here to Portland and I took everything that I learned that I'd been, filling journals with for 12 years plus, laid it all out and started organizing it, and realized that it's a four-step process that can get us to a place of inspired performance. Because I wanted to share with people how to get to that place where you just have this amazing connection with the music, yourself, the audience, your ensemble, that you and I and many others through Ananda have experienced. So the hush is the first stage, creating a dynamic sense of stillness, meditation, ridding the body of excess tension. And so that's the basic underlying groundwork for that. And then that gives the heart a safe place to open. And so for musicians, this can surprisingly be a delicate area, because the heart, believe it or not, is not often what gets shared vulnerably. The ego gets shared with a lot, but sometimes the heart has a more difficult time, because the heart gets shut down. It's, and in classical music, you get criticized a lot, so it's easy to lose that sense of joy there. So the heart is also that aspect of intuitively feeling the inner experience. So giving yourself an opportunity to allow for that inner resonance, that sympathetic resonance which sparks something inside of you. And then the lift is the third one, is that creating the positive energy and engaging positively. So doing practices such as affirmations, getting past the inner critic, to be able to keep that upward flow in practice and in performance. Because it's so easy, you make a mistake and like, oh, that typical it's a challenge to keep going with positivity, because the ego and the inner critic just want to rip you apart all the time. And then the flow is that state of offering, is that state of stepping into the unknown, uh, which takes faith and courage and conviction. So the hush create dynamic stillness, the heart open to intuitive experience, the lift engage positivity, and the flow is offering into that divine state
Beautiful.
of inspiration. So when these are active, when these are open, inspiration has a place to find itself.
What inspires you?
I'm inspired by people who can get to the place of this is what matters. Inspiration, sharing love, sharing God's presence in whatever they do,
Mhm.
whether it's music, whether it's service, whether it's parenting, whether it's teaching, uh, just being able to courageously greet the world and with a sense of offering, with a sense of unity.
David G, this has been just beautiful. Thank
What a,
you for being who you are and sharing your inspiration with all of us and allowing us to feel more of it ourselves.
my pleasure.